Hello and welcome to a 1v1 game between LucifroN and coRe. Here we are on Himeyama. We will have LucifroN spawning in as the yellow Malians to the east, and to the west we have coRe playing as the Holy Roman Empire in orange. Now he's opening double scouts here, so he's going to put a lot of emphasis on collecting sheep. He's a little late to the party here on the southern part of the pond. Lucifer actually beat him to that. But right now, what he's doing is essentially sending his first scout to the enemy side, trying to take away some of the easily accessible sheep from LucifroN. And his second scout that he spawns is going to scout around his base here. Now, the second scout actually is going to the north, and so far, coRe has been very unlucky finding sheep. Lucifer on the other side, where did his scout go? He's definitely been the more successful player when it comes to collecting sheep. And oh, this is just bad for coRe. Now, if you're unlucky finding sheep with just one scout, such as life, it's not great, but it is what it is. But when you invest into a second scout and you cannot get away with a lot of sheep, that's catastrophic. And LucifroN didn't have to invest into that one scout. Keep in mind that as you build a new scout on the town center, you actually sacrifice a villager's production. In fact, because the scout takes 25 seconds to build compared to a villager's 20, you actually sacrifice 1.25 of a villager for this. Having said that, of course, you do have the prelate buffing your villagers, so you can offset that eco deficit a little. But it's not a good start when you cannot get many more sheep because of the extra scout investment. At the end of the day, he's going to have a couple more, but not a great start, so to say. In fact, I would dare to say that LucifroN definitely has the better outcome for Dark Age, I would say. So, Holy Roman Empire versus Malians. This is a tricky matchup for the HRE because their biggest power spike is early mid-Castle Age, same timing as Malians. But Malians have a much more sustainability because of the Juggernaut eco that they can build. Now, the way for coRe to play this, I feel, is probably very aggressive early Castle Age, probably with Burgrave Palace. The Malians love their combination of Javelin Throwers and Dansos, and that's a tough combination for many civs to stop. But HRE with a Burgrave Palace build can actually do a lot of damage against them. Of course, Malians can play Musafati warriors, but they're fairly fragile, and in general, Malians don't want to play super heavy, direct Musafati warriors. They want to play into either Sofas, or they want to play into this Danso plus Javelin combination. Straight Musafati is not their go-to build, so to say. So, the fact that you open Man-at-Arms means that you force the hand of the Malian player to make an investment into one of the less effective units that they have on their roster. Musafatis are still great, but compared to some of the other units, like, let's say Poison Arrow Archers, let's say Sofas with Imported Armor, they're definitely on the weaker side compared to those. Alken Chapel on the way, nice little spot here for coRe. He wasn't able to include the berries in this, but the fact that he has it on the gold or close to the gold makes me feel like he wants to play Fast Castle. And I have a feeling that it's going to be a Burgrave build. It could technically be a Ragnitz Cathedral build, but I wouldn't be a fan of this, because the Malians can open stable and play warrior scouts to just prevent you from picking up those relics. I don't think LucifroN is going to do that, but the sheer fact that LucifroN is able to do that should mean that coRe shouldn't really be thinking about an easy way of picking up the relics. Side note here, if you want to play aggressive in Castle Age and just straight up rush Castle, you place your Aachen Chapel such that it takes, or such that it has the gold included as well. In general, one of the interesting things that players say about the Aachen Chapel is that if you have to choose between food and gold, you usually choose food if you are going to be heavy on relics, because most of your gold is going to come from relics. The fact that coRe has chosen the gold here over the food, instead of placing it right here, let's say, kind of tells me that he wants to first and foremost rush Castle Age here, so he needs that extra gold boost. But more importantly, he isn't planning to play a very long game that's heavily focused on relics. I think, again, all these signs to me, are pointing towards a fast castle build into a burgrave palace. Now, what do you do if you're LucifroN with this? Well, we talked about this in one of the previous games I cast, in which coRe played burgrave palace with the HRE. I think the key thing with the burgrave build is that it's almost an all-in style build. If the initial push stalls out, because let's say your opponent has 5 to 6 crossbows that can deal with this push, you cannot really sustain it. You don't have good enough of an eco to mass-produce men-at-arms on a burgrave palace for an extended period of time. So if you are LucifroN, I would say you probably just start mixing in some early Musafati warriors if you see those guys coming, and then just play a defensive game. Nice little walls from LucifroN. He's definitely afraid of coRe picking up the relics here. He's also going to get some Donsos on the field. Even gets veterancy. Or, I guess, the hardened upgrade, the feudal age one. So, here's the thing with LucifroN. His gold mines are fairly safe, so doesn't need to be worried that much about that. And the fact that he's opening Donsos makes me think that he might be expecting some knights. Or maybe even horsemen for map control from coRe. Archers. Not something that you see every day, that's for sure, from the HRE. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but it could work. Here's the thing. This is kind of a bait approach by coRe, I feel. First of all, this one archer is going to be good pushing away the Donso. But I think it's more about the fact that if you show archers, you basically tell your opponent, like, hey, I could push you with archers, so you need to make javelin throwers. Because archers will decimate both Donsos and Musafati warriors. And you see, there's the burgrave palace behind this. Now, the idea here for coRe is that by showing archers, you force your opponent to start investing into javelins, and that means that your men-at-arms will be very effective against those. At the same time, having archers available also means that Musafati warriors will have a tough time. But you see, coRe is not investing very heavily into the archers. This is just a diversion in many ways. And then burgrave palace is going to be the main show, allowing you to actually flood the men-at-arms. Relics are being walled into the north, but coRe should have no issues grabbing at least a couple of these. LucifroN did a good job sneaking out of his base, by the way, getting some walls going here. And he himself is going to age up. Now, not a single piece of cattle here, or at least no cattle ranch. He's actually making a couple of cattle. But the fact that we're not seeing any cattle ranches kind of makes me feel like we are going to see the Farimba garrison here. It's a landmark that has been the go-to landmark for a long time for Malian players, and in many ways it's actually comparable to the Burgrave Palace when it comes to the style and the approach that you have to take when using it. It's an all-in-ish style landmark. You're committing a lot of villagers to gold. You're basically saying, look, I'm not working towards sustainability on eco. I am straight up just mass-producing army and trying to finish the game quickly. Archer is looking to pick off the villager here. Donsos will clean this up. And here come the men-at-arms. On the other side, I don't see a single Musafati warrior yet from LucifroN. His scout is not close to the enemy base, but he should anticipate a potential burgrave build. And wow, coRe is actually mixing in some upgrades here, specifically veterancy for the archers. I did not expect this. I thought he was going to play heavy into men-at-arms. I thought he's going to have a couple of archers here just to clean up Musafati warriors, Donsos, but I didn't expect him to commit to veterancy here. And you see, his resource bank isn't spectacular. He's definitely having issues mass-producing army here. This is the problem that you're having when you are actually playing a burgrave build. Castle Age is on the way for LucifroN. He needs a couple of Musafati warriors to deal with these guys. But it's only 2 men-at-arms, and they don't have marching drills. And this is a problem, I feel, for coRe. He's investing into the veterancy on the archers, but that upgrade isn't going to aid this all-in style push with the men-at-arms. There's the Farimba garrison as well. Wouldn't be surprised to see Musafati warriors queued up indeed. So you see, you take 5 seconds to make men-at-arms, which means you can make 12 a minute. So if you have a food income less than 1200 per minute, that means that you aren't consistently using this landmark. And this is always an issue when using the Burgrave Palace. This is why I kind of call it an all-in style landmark. This initial push with the men-at-arms can be deadly, but if it stalls out, you just have a landmark that's not used for virtually anything right now. And coRe's food income is far from impressive. He's got no relics to work with. Musafati Warrior is now out to clean this up as well. And I think the issue that he's having is that veterancy on the archers, it's completely useless. He's got one archer right now, and he has gotten veterancy. Now, I'm not saying that a mass man-at-arms build would have worked here. I feel like Musafati Warriors work perfectly fine. But I feel like coRe approached this game trying to do two things at the same time when he cannot afford both. And now he's having a lackluster man-at-arms build because he cannot afford to upgrade archers and mass-produce men-at-arms at the same time. Granted, this is a difficult build to accomplish or to succeed with against the Malians, because unlike most civilizations, the Malians do have a direct response to heavy infantry in Feudal Age. If you were to play against, let's say, I don't know, Abbasids, that's a solid example. The Abbasids, they don't have armor-piercing units in Feudal Age, so mass men-at-arms can actually do a lot of damage to them before they reach castle. Now, archers are kind of working out here, but you see, it's actually the Landsknechte that work perfectly here. Those are actually really good against the Musafati Warriors. Musafati Warriors are actually glass cannon. You see, they actually have a very low HP. They have a higher HP than the Landsknechte, but of course, Landsknechte doing area damage is something that's very valuable here. Stealth being utilized here by LucifroN. At the same time, coRe hasn't picked up a single relic, not even this one, which is somewhat surprising given that he had all that map control. And maybe he assumed that this one is also walled in. But there were some... Oh no, coRe, he tried this one. He actually doesn't know about the Musafati Warriors. They were all concealed, and I think he got baited here. He saw the scout, but he didn't see the Musafati Warriors. He thought he can yoink this relic. Boy, oh boy, was he wrong. And he's just going to tap out of this one. Alright. A quickie here by LucifroN. This is a tough matchup for the HRE again. I feel like men-at-arms might be the way to go. But it's a really difficult one because Musafati Warriors can deal with you. I feel like archers would have been okay, but in that case you want to age up with the Regnitz Cathedral and play knights. Because then you have mobility with the knights, you can harass the enemy with them. And archers will be nice to pick off Dunzos. But I feel like burgrave men-at-arms, supported by archers, is not something that you can consistently afford. And that was an issue here for coRe. Granted, again, I feel like, as I kind of touched on this at the beginning of the game, the issue that you're having is that your biggest power spike in early game overlaps perfectly with the opponent's biggest power spike. So you don't really have a window in which you have the upper hand in early game. So it's difficult to do any significant damage to really swing the game in your favor. Hopefully you've enjoyed this game. If you did, please consider pressing a like on the video, subscribing to the channel. Those metrics help me greatly. You can also look around on my channel in case you find some additional costs as well. I am covering some tournaments as well, usually smaller tournaments that do not get major coverage in the EGC TV channel, as well as, of course, ranked games and other stuff like that. So if you enjoy such content, please consider subscribing to the channel, and hopefully I will see you in the next cast. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.